All right, so you're ready to dive into the world of Big Data Archive Librarians.
A fascinating field.
It really is. You want to make sure information is going to be around for a long time right now. That's really cool. We've got all these RoleCatcher guides here, and wow, they're full of insights.
Yeah, these guides are like the gold standard if you're serious about
For
this.
sure. And one thing that they emphasize right away is metadata.
Yeah,
Now, I know that might sound a little, I don't know, boring, but trust me, this is where it gets really interesting.
it's the invisible backbone of the entire digital world.
Yeah,
Without it, everything falls apart.
exactly. It's like, how do you even find anything? These guides really emphasize that big data archive librarians, they're not just like digital caretakers, they're building these information systems.
Totally, yeah, you're building that structure, and that requires some serious technical and analytical skills, right? We're talking about data storage systems, we're talking about digital preservation techniques. It's a lot more than just knowing how to use, like, Google or something.
Oh, for sure. These guides get into the weeds, like complying with metadata standards. Even like, some organizations have those old legacy
Oh,
systems.
absolutely, yeah.
Still got to deal with those.
Yeah, you're going to be working with cutting-edge cloud storage one day, and then the next day you're figuring out how to get data off a floppy disk.
Oh, wow. So you're like a tech historian in a way.
A little bit, yeah.
That's really cool. But, speaking of skills, the RoleCatcher guides don't just focus on the hard skills. They talk about soft skills too, right?
Oh, communication is key. You've got to be able to talk to the IT department, maybe even directly with researchers and historians, make sure they're archiving their stuff correctly.
So it's very collaborative.
Very collaborative, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, where can this career take me? Luckily, these guides, they've got us covered.
A lot of paths you can take. You can specialize in a specific type of digital archive. Maybe you're really into historical documents, or maybe it's scientific data. You could move into management, lead a whole team of archivists.
Wow.
Or you could even go into consulting and help organizations build their own digital preservation strategy.
Yeah, that's what I love about this field. It's not just one straight path.
Right.
You can make it your own.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is these guides get into the practical stuff too, like how do you actually get a job doing this?
Yeah.
They get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, they have some really good interview tips, like how do you show how passionate you are about this stuff?
Yeah, I need to know.
How do you show off your knowledge of current trends? And there's this tool they mentioned called RoleCatcher Capture. It's like a secret weapon for job hunting.
Okay, what is it?
It lets you save job postings directly from websites. No more, filling out applications over and over.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's great. They also talk about building an online portfolio so you can show off the projects you've worked on, any skills that you've mastered, certifications you've earned. It's all about standing out.
Oh, yeah. Got to have those certifications. They mentioned the Certified Archivist, the CA, the Digital Archive Specialist, the DIES.
Yeah, those are good ones to have.
It's like leveling up in a video game. Exactly. It shows that you're serious about this, and that's super important in any field, but especially one that changes so fast.
So how do they recommend actually staying ahead of the curve?
Joining professional associations is a big one. Going to those conferences, going to workshops.
It's working.
Networking, yeah. Don't underestimate good old-fashioned networking.
It's all about making those connections.
Yeah, and you never know where those connections might lead, right?
Yeah.
They also talk about finding a mentor, somebody who can, guide you.
Oh, like a digital Yoda. I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've talked about organization, preservation, the tech stuff, but what does a normal day look like for a big data archive librarian?
Yeah, what's it really like?
It's not all just algorithms and server rooms, I'll tell you that.
Okay, give us the inside scoop.
One day, you might be looking at a collection of digital photographs, adding metadata, making sure they're preserved. The next day, you could be working with a team to move a library's entire collection of historical documents to a new digital archive system.
So it's different every day.
It can be. Yeah, it's very varied.
So what skills do you need to succeed?
You got to have an eye for detail, that's for sure. You're going to be spotting inconsistencies in metadata. You're going to be identifying potential risks to those files. You need to be a problem solver, think critically, adapt to new challenges. Technology never stops, so you got to keep up.
So what kind of challenges do they face? What keeps them up at night, according to these guides?
The sheer volume of data, it's growing incredibly fast. And keeping up with it all, making sure it's preserved and accessible, that's a huge challenge.
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, it never stops. And then there are the constantly changing metadata standards. What's best practice today could be obsolete tomorrow, so you got to be ready to adapt and learn new things all the time.
Always on your toes.
Always on your toes, yeah. And you're dealing with sensitive information a lot of the time, historical records, cultural stuff. So you need to be mindful of privacy and make sure the data is being used responsibly.
That's a good point. It's not just about preserving it, it's about preserving it ethically.
Exactly. And that's something that big data archive librarians, they're really in a unique position to make sure that happens. They're guardians of this digital heritage.
That's a big responsibility. So it sounds like there's a lot of responsibility, but there's some pretty cool rewards too, right?
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely.
Oh, there.
This is a career where you can really make a difference. And the guides, they make that very clear.
So it's not just about the technical skills, it's about something bigger.
It's about preserving our collective knowledge, our history, and making sure future generations have access to it. It's a pretty amazing legacy to be a part of.
And there's a lot of room for growth in this career,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah. The demand is only going to go up as we create more and more data.
Job security.
Right. And as you gain experience, you can move into those leadership roles, or you can specialize in a specific area that you're passionate about. The sky's the limit.
And the guides, they mentioned the salary is pretty good too.
Yeah, it's definitely a well-compensated field.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right? The work is crucial in this day and age.
So you've got the challenge, you've got the intellectual stimulation, you're making a difference. It's all there.
It's all there, yeah. What more could you ask for?
It's a great mix.
It really is.
Well, I'm sold. What about you? Ready to become a digital guardian?
I'm ready to dive in.
Mm-hmm.
And after the break, we're going to go even deeper into the world of big data archive librarians. Don't go away.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm ready to keep talking about these big data archive librarians.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you think about it being a guardian of all this information.
Totally. And these RoleCatcher guides, they lay out all these paths you could take.
Yeah, they emphasize that you could work in so many different places.
Okay, so it's not just like, I don't know, dusty old libraries. Like, where else could you work?
Oh, way more than that. Think about universities. They have these huge digital collections. Government agencies, they need people to take care of historical records. Museums, they're digitizing all their artifacts now.
Wait, even museums? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, imagine helping to preserve, like, ancient manuscripts or old recordings.
Mm.
It's like you're a digital Indiana Jones or something. And it's not just them, tech companies. They need people to manage all their data. Even the entertainment industry, right? They need to preserve all those movies, the music, the video games.
Wow, so anywhere there's a ton of data, they need someone like this.
Pretty much. Yeah, if it needs to be organized and preserved, that's where you come in.
So how do they even manage all that information? Like, it's got to be massive amounts of data.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. That's where those technical skills come in. The RoleCatcher guides, they actually get into the specific software and systems that these librarians use.
Okay, so what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, there are metadata management systems. That's a big one. It's like a database, but specifically for metadata. Then there are digital asset management systems. Those are for storing and organizing things like images, videos, audio files.
Sounds pretty complicated.
It can be, yeah, but it's part of what makes it interesting. The guides, they say you don't need to be like a coding expert right away,
Okay, good.
but it definitely helps to know a little bit about programming languages.
So maybe I could actually use my, my love of data and my very, very basic coding skills.
Hey, you never know.
Maybe I could do this. But seriously, these guides are great. They explain all the skills you need.
Totally. And they highlight the different digital preservation techniques like migration, emulation, encapsulation. They even get into the nitty-gritty of different file formats and how to store data.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the good stuff, and I'm guessing this stuff is always changing, right?
Oh, yeah, all the time. What's best practice today might be totally obsolete tomorrow.
So how do you keep up with all that?
That's why they talk about continuous learning so much. Going to conferences, joining professional organizations, keeping up with what's happening in the field. It's essential.
So you're constantly learning, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. You're like a lifelong student of the digital world.
I can dig it. But it's not all about the tech stuff, is it? The guides mention soft skills, too, like communication and stuff.
Oh, for sure. You're not just dealing with data, you're dealing with people, too, right? You're going to be working with colleagues, researchers, maybe even the public. So you got to be able to explain things clearly, build relationships, all that good stuff.
It's like being a digital diplomat or something.
Uh-huh. I like that. You're bridging the gap between the tech and the people who use it.
Okay, so let's talk career progression. What does that look like?
Well, the guides actually have a really good section on this.
Okay, lay it on me.
So they talk about these different stages. You might start as a digital archivist assistant or a metadata specialist. Then you could move into a role like digital archivist or digital preservation librarian. And with enough experience, you could become a manager or even a director of digital preservation.
Whoa. So there's definitely room to move up.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's not just about climbing the ladder. You could also specialize in a particular area, like maybe you're really into image preservation, or maybe it's audiovisual stuff.
So many options.
Exactly. Or you could become an expert in a specific industry, like working for the government, or maybe in academic libraries.
Man, this is making me want to go update my resume right now. But okay, let's talk about the job market. What's it actually like out there?
Well, the good news is the guides are pretty optimistic.
Oh, good, because I'm ready to jump ship from my current job.
Uh-huh. Well, they say there's a growing demand for skilled people who can manage and preserve all this data. And it's only going to increase as more and more organizations go digital.
So job security is a good bet then.
It's looking good, yeah. Of course, it always depends on where you are, what industry you're in, and your specific skills. But overall, the future's looking bright.
That's good to hear. So what do you think makes someone really successful in this field? Like, what are those intangible qualities?
Well, based on the guides and my own experience, I'd say it comes down to a few things. First of all, you got to be passionate about preservation. Like you genuinely geek out over old documents and stuff.
They're like the superheroes of information.
Exactly. And they're not afraid of hard work. They're detail-oriented, meticulous, and they don't mind digging into those complex data sets.
It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Definitely not. But it's also incredibly rewarding. And that sense of purpose, that drive to make a difference, that's what really sets these people apart.
I like that. It's more than just a job, it's something bigger.
Exactly. And these RoleCatcher guides, they do a great job of capturing that.
So we've talked about the skills, the job market, the career paths. But why does this even matter? Like, why should people care about big data archive librarians?
That's a great question. And it's something the guides talk about, too. They're not just technical experts. They're stewards of our collective memory.
Ooh, I like that. Stewards of our collective memory.
Think about it. Every single day, we create so much digital information. Pictures, videos, emails, social media, all of it. And all that data, it tells a story.
It's like a giant digital scrapbook.
Right. But if it's not preserved properly, it could just disappear.
And that's where the big data archive librarians come in.
Exactly. They make sure that future generations can access this information so they can understand the past, learn from our mistakes. It's pretty important when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. It's like they're shaping how we understand the world.
And they're doing it one bite at a time.
I love it. So, before we move on, what would you say to someone who's feeling inspired by all this, but maybe a little intimidated by all the technical stuff?
I'd say don't let the tech scare you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need some technical skills, but you also need passion, you need curiosity, you need to be willing to learn.
So it's more about your attitude than anything else.
Exactly. If you're excited about preserving information and you love the digital world and you want to make a difference, this could be a great career for you.
Well said. Well, on that note, let's take a quick pause, and then we'll come back for the final part of our deep dive into the world of big data archive librarians. All right, we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of big data archive librarians.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from metadata to career paths to, the bigger picture of what it all means.
We even talked about being stewards of our collective memory, which I kind of love.
It's a good way to put it.
It is. But now I want to make sure we give our listeners some real practical advice, Like, what are the challenges they might actually face if they decide to pursue this career?
Yeah, that's important. One thing that comes up a lot is the need to always be learning. This field changes so fast, you can't just learn something once and then forget about it.
Yeah, you have to be okay with constantly learning new things.
Exactly. So going to conferences, taking online courses, just staying up to date on everything. It's essential, but that's also part of what makes it interesting, right?
Yeah, it's that you're always on the cutting edge.
Exactly. And then another thing is, not every organization is going to have those cutting-edge systems, right? You might end up working with some pretty outdated stuff.
Oh, so you mean like old computers, old software?
Yeah, sometimes even older, like really old data formats, things like that. So you need to be able to work with that too, which can be a challenge.
So you're like a tech archaeologist.
That's a good way to put it. And another thing, this might be the biggest challenge actually. Sometimes you have to convince people that what you do is important,
Oh yeah, like why should we spend money on this?
Exactly. Digital preservation, it's not always seen as a top priority. So you might need to explain it to people, justify your budget, really sell them on the value of what you do.
That makes sense. It's like you're an advocate for the future.
Exactly. You're making sure these things don't just disappear. So there are definitely challenges, but the rewards are pretty amazing too, right?
Yeah, let's talk about those. What did the RoleCatcher guides say about that?
Well, they talk a lot about the sense of purpose that a lot of big data archive librarians feel. Like, they're not just doing a job, they're preserving something important.
Yeah, it's like they're protecting our history.
Exactly. They're making sure that those stories, those experiences, those pieces of knowledge, they don't get lost. And that can be really powerful, to know that you're making that kind of difference.
Yeah, and it's not just about the past, it's about the future too, right?
Absolutely. The decisions you make today about what to preserve, how to organize it, that's going to affect how people understand the world for years to come.
Wow, that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. It's like you're curating the digital world for future generations.
Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who might be thinking about this career path?
If you're passionate about preserving information, if you love technology, and if you want to make a difference, then this could be the perfect field for you.
I think that's a great place to end it. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the world of big data archive librarians.